On the Healthy Human Revolution podcast, Dr. Lori Marbas interviews nutrition and lifestyle medicine experts and extraordinary guests whose informative and inspiring stories will empower you with the knowledge to transform your life and health.
Welcome to the podcast. I'm Dr. Lori Marbas, and today I'm super excited because I get to host some of my favorite people, which are my colleagues from Plant-Based Telehealth. So I have Dr. Chris Miller, Dr. Michael Klaper, and Dr. Colin Zhu. Welcome, guys.
Good to be with you.
This is fun. I'm gonna like this. So today we were just kind of talking about looking at problems and solutions, and what are some of the more common problems that you're seeing as far as your patients when they're trying to embrace this, or as they're navigating this journey, or overcoming chronic disease, whatever, and whatever advice you might give them. So who would like to start?
Well, I seem to be a nucleus of attracting middle-aged people who are having a really hard time adopting a whole food plant-based diet for a number of classic reasons. They just can't keep their hands off either the baked goods or those comfort foods that they've come to love. Or the home situation. They've got a spouse who just is not into this and not supplying any support. And then finally, my time, doc, I'm on the road, I'm a salesman, I gotta just grab it, whatever I can get at the fast food places. I just don't, I'm just not organized enough. And so my heart goes out to all these people, and you wanna, help them, find a system that works for them, though everybody's different because they've got these unique facets in there. So of course I start by asking, what is, from your point of view, what is the major obstacle that keeps pulling you off the path, and let them describe it. And it often comes down to, just understanding ideas. I didn't realize you could make up a big bad soup and eat off of it for 3 days or whatever, just having them change their whole approach to food. But I find myself more and more making a referral. I've got some plant-based dietitian colleagues that would love to act as a coach for these folks, because I realize I'm just a doctor, I'm not a food expert, but certainly like Dr. Zhu or some of the other folks on the panel here. And it is out of my wheelhouse a bit, and I can't really give them the detailed dietary guidance that they need. So I've been making referrals to plant-based dietitians, and so far over the last few weeks, the patients have been very happy that there's a person, usually of their same gender, who can just talk plain English to them about practical ideas. So, I've long said we need some food diet coaches, on our staff here. And so I've been kind of hobnailing, putting together my own version of that. So a coach who can be with these folks, I think, is really, really helpful. And we're glad we're able to supply that in some form or another.
Absolutely. That's great. Either of you? Chris?
One thing that has helped a lot of my patients that I've noticed is it's so easy to give into temptation, not because we want to, not because we intend to, or because we're weak or we have low willpower, but we know that willpower runs out, right? There's that willpower gap. Willpower only lasts for a certain amount of time. And after a stressful day, and you're running around and taking care of kids and working, and by the evening, after doing so well with such good intentions, we end up breaking down oftentimes. And so I see this in my patients. And so this is something that I try to work through with them, is when it happens. And I think we want to get rid of the whole willpower part of it. And so instead of having to say, I don't want to have this, I'm going to willpower my way out and muscling your way through it, to set the environment where it's not even there, and to change your identity to be the type of person who doesn't even eat cookies or sugar. And I find that changing the identity has been very helpful for people to start thinking of yourself as the person that you want to be instead of the person that you are who eats cookies, and to have the environment where there's no cookies available. And if you have a spouse or family members who eat cookies, it's hidden away from you. And that's something that I talk to my patients about, talking to your family and working through, can they hide it? Can they do that not in front of you, help you because this is hard for you and you need a little support and, just kind of keep it at distance. And so when that 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, or the evening hour comes, when you break down, instead now your fridge is filled with blueberries and apple slices and vegetables. And if you feel like the urge to eat something, that's what you have. And you don't have to willpower anymore because you're not the type of person who eats that. You've changed yourself and you've made these rules for yourself. And that has helped several of my patients with that particular situation, but to get through that moment where we kind of lose it a little bit.
I have a question for you, Chris. So that's really cool because there is an interesting study for those, someone, let's say 2 people quit smoking yesterday and you ask them the next day, are you a smoker? Those who say, I'm not a smoker, what are you talking about? I quit smoking yesterday. And there's others like, yeah, I'm still struggling. So they're still identifying themselves as a smoker who's having to fight the urge. Others are like, I'm done. So you're changing the belief system, which changes their behavior. So how do you help people change their identity? Like, what are those processes in the beginning, would you say?
I think I'm aware of those studies, not directly what you just said, but in the sense that I've seen when you change your identity that it's helpful. But I talk to them right away into I do a lot of visualization. So that's a whole separate talk, but I visualize who you want to be, what life you want to be, the health that you want to have, like visualize that. So right away you're visualizing it in the present tense. So I have them start visualizing in the present tense that you're a plant-based eater, and us plant-based eaters, we don't do that. That's not how we are. And so that person's part of it right away. And so they're not like, well, I want to be like you guys. I want to eat that way. I don't want to do this anymore, but I always binge. Well, no, you don't. You're plant-based eaters, and plant-based eaters don't binge on junk food. They binge on blueberries if they have that weak moment, right? So, so I start and give them other tools, not to say you can't ever, eat something again. You have to have something that they can switch to, like blueberries. But so I do that. We work on that right away. So they start, and the reason that I like that is I've gotten feedback from a couple of my patients now, and even a good friend of mine who was having a hard time, who's a doctor himself, and wrote back like, when you told me to change my identity, that something clicked. And for the first time, and so I've gotten feedback now that it's worked for people. So I've kept doing it. But I have to look at that study a little bit more. That's interesting.
Yeah, that's an awesome study. Yeah, Colin, go ahead. What do you have to suggest?
I would say I love working with people that are just getting into it, that's making a transition. And I think having a system in place is very, very important, especially for those that are, kind of, naive or amateurish, to the whole food plant-based game. And I encounter a lot of patients where they're on their own solo journey. They don't really have, the family support. Like one patient would tell me, yeah, they just kind of do their own thing. And the other family members would come and look at it and, they'll have question marks above their head and decide. But they're not really that, amped up as they are to kind of join their journey. And I have another subset of patients where, when they go into work, they're still fighting that constant battle of the vending machine or the convenience food, or just, just going through a drive-through or something like that. And I think it's important to have a system in place and to have your environment set up. And what I mean by that is I go through a lot of, culinary, preparation and, a lot of before they have their kitchen set up to kind of visualize, what is important to be there and what is important to not be there. So going through things like cleaning out your pantry, your fridge, your freezer, getting rid of things that are on the kitchen counter is a huge thing. It's kind of like the cookie jar effect or the candy bowl effect, where, if you're sitting at your desk and there's, a candy bowl or, some sort of bowl in front of you, are always going to be, constantly reaching for it. And if you can have it out of sight, out of mind, that'll be better. You're not going to be, so a big step is I take patients through is making sure that we take out all the processed, refined foods, anything in a bag or a container, out as soon as possible. So that way it's not there. It's not, there to tease them, to taunt them, and things like that. And then we just honestly just go through, a step-by-step process. And In terms of the family support, I encourage them that, you can make it fun. I'm a big proponent of if you don't make it fun, it's going to be hard to reinforce, just like physical activity. I tell them, they ask me, Doc, what is the best exercise to partake in? And I said, honestly, anything that you enjoy, because if you don't really, have fun with it, especially with cooking, you're not going to continue. So I tell them, enlist, instead of, you could have game night, but you could have like a cooking night with your family members and assign each one of them a task. So they feel like, they're part of the entire process instead of waiting for someone to prepare the entire thing and then just serve it. And that also, fulfills another pillar of lifestyle medicine, and that's reinforcing social connections and relationships. So every family is different, but you try to kind of fill in these gaps and, create a structure for them.
I think that there's so many good nuggets there. I mean, I really like the social connectedness that you're describing, because honestly, with the 3 kids, even before I went plant-based, they were always in the kitchen. They were setting the table, they were helping chop, they were helping mix. And some of our fondest memories are around the kitchen. When everyone's home, we're always in the kitchen. So that's a great way to stay socially connected for sure. When you said cutting, one of the things I always hear is cutting time in the kitchen. And with your expertise, what are some of the cutting time techniques that you found for folks who are really struggling with that?
Yeah, for sure. A couple of things. One would be, you would encounter a couple of subset patients where they just love to cook, but they don't know what to cook or where to go or where to start. And then you have a second subset of patients where, they know that, eating healthfully is good for them, but they don't really like the process of cooking that much. So, and everyone's different. So I cater to, whoever, all right? So the first subset of patients, I would say, to cut down time, right? One is, meal prep. I always tell patients that it's not really cooking that takes up the most time. It's really the meal prep. How we were, trained in school, in the culinary school, is, a concept called mise en place. And that's basically getting all your different ingredients, together into one station, into a workstation, and having that presented in front of you. So, when you're preparing a meal, I love teaching the concepts of, batch cooking, whether you are a bachelor or bachelorette, or if you are, you have your own family, it's important to cook multiple portions and for multiple people, so you're not spending that much time, because the cooking process is not that much longer, depending on what it is, whether you're cooking one meal versus 4 or 5 meals, you're essentially doing the same process. So to be more efficient, it's to really write down, okay, what type of recipes, if you're batch cooking, at least do a couple of recipes together simultaneously. And what type of ingredients to get ahead of time, because if you don't get these ingredients ahead of time, whether it's herbs or spices or certain type of produce or grabbing something from the pantry, then you're going to be kicking yourself of saying like, oh, that I have to do a grocery run, or I have to do a Target run, or whatever, insert your favorite, grocery store. And then that takes time out, right? And the world we live in, you're like, maybe I don't want to go out, or I don't, you'll just make up an excuse to not go out, right? And then say like, oh, I'll leave it for another day. So it's super important in terms of the actual meal prep. For the subset of patients don't really like or enjoy the process of cooking, there's definitely people that are out there. I would say, to enlist and delegate these types of tasks to, very good kitchen appliances. And we have really, really good kitchen appliances nowadays that could speed up the efficiency of the cooking process, and to just set it and forget it. And that could, be anything from your conventional oven to a convection oven, to an Instant Pot, to a slow cooker, to a high-powered blender. You can use any number of these kitchen appliances to help you cook along, especially if you are, living by yourself. So, if you don't like the process of cooking, you have other ways to improve the efficiency and cut down time.
I love the food processor and the Vitamix.
I love that. I love my food, my appliances. I'm going to tell my husband we need to get more because Dr. recommended it.
Oh my gosh,
Good
that's
tip.
funny. So what do I want to poke more into the social aspects of this, because that is a really big problem for a lot of people, right? So you have your first individual patient, he's like, they're taking it on, they have diabetes, hypertension, whatever their reason is. And so they're starting to feel good, but they're having all these social pressure, especially over the holidays. Maybe it's a spouse, maybe it's their kids, maybe it's colleagues, very close family, grandparents who are giving hard time with the kids. Yeah. So what would your suggestions, words of wisdom about those social aspects? Dr. K, you want to start? Because I know you've had lots of experience with that.
Oh my. Well, there comes a point where you got to take a step back and decide what your priorities are. What really matters here? What matters is your health. As I say in my lectures, God forbid you get a heart attack or a stroke or they find a cancer somewhere. It's only you in that hospital bed. It's not the grandparents, it's not your spouse, it's not the people at work, it's not the sister-in-law, it's you. And your life is never the same after one of these major medical catastrophes, intrudes itself. And so we're talking about avoiding a stroke, avoiding a heart attack, avoiding obesity, avoiding diabetes. This is serious business. And you're taking care of your kids and your spouse. You want them around for a long time, and the food that's flowing through them day after day after day is the key determinant if they're going to be healthy or they're not. And you just can't ignore it. It's not, you can't get behind the car and ignore the steering wheel. You're driving the car, and the same thing with your food choices. And so my job is to get healthy food into my body and those of the people that I love here, and make it taste good and not tie up my entire life making food. And okay, that's a reasonable approach to use, stepping into this. And then I also say, listen, you're a grown man or you're a grown woman. You can make your own decisions about what to eat. It's just food. It's nobody's business really about what you order for lunch. It's your decision. And if you want to have the pasta with the vegetables instead of the meatballs, ask and you shall receive in the restaurant. And the same thing, if you're going to make a great a thick chili or a stew for your family, have fun with it. Season it up, make it really tasty and satisfying. And celebrate it, but you don't have to apologize for it. You don't have to make any excuses for it. This is what we're having for dinner. Have all you want, and you know that good things are going to happen the more they have delicious vegetable-rich food that they eat. So like Paul Simon's 50 Ways to Leave Your Lover, just set yourself free of all the nattering from the peanut gallery here. You're on a mission to eat healthy and to make your family healthier. And it's easy to do, eat a lot of veggies and laugh a lot, it's kind of shorthand for, a sane life and a sane diet. So it starts with just resetting the frame that you're not answering to these people. You're answering to your own body, to the truth, and to the loving desire to make your family healthier. That should really be the standards that you answer to, and the rest becomes technique. And there'll be a little, it's threatening to some people, and they think you're judging them because you're not serving meat. But just love them and pass the chili, please. Thank you. Let the food do the talking, and after a while, it blows over. Your family, they love. That's just how Mary eats. That's just how John eats, and it's okay. And by the way, that tofu lasagna was pretty good last time we were over there. And so the food is a great ambassador. So have fun. Let that be your focus, and don't let the chattering from the sidelines there distract you. You're on a mission.
Seriously, that was fantastic, Dr. K. And honestly, your Dr. Klaperisms, that could make a book about all the
Sure.
I love all of that. Like you're in the car and you're saying you're not going to let go of the wheel. That makes perfect sense. Oh my goodness, I love that. Oh my gosh. Chris, Colin, either of you?
Well, it's hard to follow Dr. K because that's the answer. So we'll just
great.
start with that I got the position. But yeah, so Dr. K is talking about owning it, right? Basically setting what your intention, what's important to you, and your health is obviously too important to let it go. And so you own it, you get up there and this is who you are. Again, changing your identity, you're there, you're not the type of person who eats that. So that can help you. But I get it. Like, we're social creatures, and I feel it more than ever. I think because of all these years of COVID, and we've been home and we haven't been able to go out and socialize as much. And we're social creatures. We want to fit in, right? We want to fit in with our peers. We don't want to stand out. And it's hard to be that the weird person. Nobody wants to be the weird person, right? Unless it's in a good way weird. But it can be hard for some people. We're not all as secure maybe as Dr. K is, or as confident in ourselves when we go out and we socialize. So I think something that can be helpful is to have your social group online, people you fit in with. Find your plant-based support peeps and be part of this group. Be active. Maybe it's plant-based telehealth, maybe it's forks over knives. There's so many free things now you can join, or you can pay to join groups. I'm in a bunch myself, and it really helps me. I have my people. You guys are my people. You guys listening, and you guys here, like, and I surround myself by you guys. I fit in, I'm comfortable, I feel like I found my home. So when I go out with my friends locally, if they're eating different foods, I can, bring something healthy that I can contribute to everyone and not make a big fuss over it and socialize. It's about being with them. And if I feel a little different, I still have my peeps. I know you guys are doing the same thing as I am. So I still feel connected. I don't feel like I don't fit in, because I too don't like to not fit in or be weird. I don't want to be the weird person, but I feel strong. You guys give me strength when I go out. And so then I can do what I want to do and not make a big fuss about it, and be social and focus on the socializing and not the food part, and try to minimize that part. If I don't feel like talking about it, go running home to you guys. So that's helped. That's one idea, I think, for some of the tough social situations.
Yeah, definitely finding your tribe. I would 100% agree with that. So, Colin?
I definitely echo both Dr. K and Dr. Miller. I would definitely say the tribe part is super important, especially nowadays. We're living in the world that we're living in, and in some cases it might be actually harder. So doing finding the time to and finding that motivation and finding that group. So just don't be discouraged. That group is out there. I think that there's a tribe and group for everyone. It's kind of like those extracurricular clubs that we had in high school, or the different cliques that we had in high school. There's always going to be some group for you, right? You just have to keep looking. And at the end of the day, similar to what Dr. K said, it's really about prioritizing your health. I think what the pandemic has taught us, if anything, is that the unhealthy, the sicker you are, the higher risk factors that you possessed before the pandemic hit you, really reflects and determines how well, whether you're going to be onslaughted with another type of infectious process, or you're going to be something else. So it's really about optimizing that health. And I say this all the time, is no matter whether you're a homeless person or a billionaire CEO, it's like, your health is going to stop you in your tracks, and it's really going to limit you. So, it's really about prioritizing that. And, kind of like, TV, media, magazine covers, if you can just, take yourself and remove yourself from that distraction. There's a famous saying by Tony Robbins, energy goes where focus flows, right? So it's basically, whatever you're focused on, that's what, so if you're going to be focused on the gossip, if you're going to be focused on what people think about you, then that's really what's going to overwhelm your world, right? So, if you focus on your health, if you focus on prioritizing yourself, you're focused on your mental well-being, you're focused on, how you want to show up in the world, that's, that's where it's going to go, depending on what you deem important.
Absolutely. I think that's really important to understand, just thinking about what you want, and then making sure that that's very clear to those around you, and just understanding that whenever someone is giving you a hard time, it's just a reflection of their own judgment of themselves. It has nothing to do with you. They really could care less what goes in your mouth. Really, they don't. They really don't care because they're
Yeah.
not enjoying. That's
They're not
not
going to remember what they ate like yesterday or 2 days ago.
or
anyway,
you
so.
either, right?
Right.
And they're not going to enjoy this or not dislike it. I mean, what's going on in your mouth is your private party. So really, it's their business. It's not yours. So don't worry about it. You know, like Dr. K said, it will blow over, and it just becomes, you become the one who eats this way. You know, when Gabriel, my youngest, when he was in high school, so he was 13 when we switched over the diets. He's 23 now. He loved being the only vegan in his high school. Own it. He's like, first of all, I'm the only Asian, Mom. I might as well be the only vegan too. So what's new? So I'm like, well, don't forget there's half of you that's white, but it's all good. They own that Asian. But, you know, it was really funny. I was really happy to see that he had that healthy attitude, and we can kind of learn from that, right? So just kind of enjoy the process. And, you know, I say, listen, when someone gives you a hard time, it's an opportunity to teach them what your experience has been, teach them, you know, other resources they're suffering, you know, give an opportunity to share this. Maybe that message may not change their attitude or behavior today, but it might tomorrow or next week when things get worse, because it will if they keep eating the way they are. So yeah, I think that's great. But, you know, and then I think, you know, the final thing and that I like to talk about you guys with is our immune system and this pandemic. And I know, Dr. Zhu had some questions, you wanted to speak about mindset and some things. So maybe we could just speak there as like, what was your recommendations as we're going into the marathon of this COVID? What would be some of your wise and sage advice for those who are just like, you know, I'm just tired. I'm doing everything right, but man, it's just other people aren't. What do we do? What would we do? Dr. K?
Well, these are remarkable times. Whoever thought that society would turn into what it has, that, you know, navigating daily life, that Zoom would become part of our existence and relating to other people, and medicine would turn into so much telemedicine, etc. But here we are, and you know, the Japanese, I believe, culture, you know, has this lovely two-word recognition of the way things are. So, you know, aso, you know, it's become a trivial way to trivialize Japanese culture, but those are two profound syllables. So, that's the way things are. You know, this thing has happened. You recognize something that's happened. So it is. I accept it as it is. What I got to deal with. So it is. And that's what we have to, that's how I have to deal with this amazing life that we're living here. Lots of surprises. So this is what it is. There is an aggressive infectious viral disease spread through our culture, our society. It did, and it's still out there. And we've got to play for that. It won't be there forever. It'll fade away. It'll become background endemic. But right now, you know, we're getting to the tail end of this. It's no reason to become cynical or upset. I mean, we're still, there's food in the stores, there's fresh water comes out of your tap, nobody's dropping mortar shells on your house. There's a reasonably stable civil society. Focus on what we've got and what you have, all the blessings you get. And especially if you've got good health right now, if you can breathe without wheezing, if you can walk without pain, that's a blessing. You know, focus on that. And then take care of yourself. Don't piddle away your good health reserves by cheating on sleep. Get enough sleep. It's really important. If I want to get sick, I just have to string together a few 3-hour sleep nights, and my throat gets scratchy and I start getting sick. Don't eat sugar. It really lowers your immunity, and in any form. It's not a food. It's a flavoring and to be used sparingly, but don't eat candies and obviously sugary foods. Alcohol is not your friend, no matter how stressed you are. It's a toxin, and it damages your immune system and increases cancer risks, etc. Walking around angry and resentful. Dr. Zhu, I'm sure, can tell us all about positive attitude. But it makes sure if you feel stressed and attacked and angry, your adrenal glands are pumping out cortisol and adrenaline, and that lowers your immunity. We're meant to be happy beings on this planet. Find the happiness where you can. And help somebody, teach a kid to read, even online, help down at the animal shelter, do something to get some of your energy out into the world and do something positive rather than doing a poor me and listing all the things you can't do. There's so much that we can do. How can I help? What can I do to bring a little sunshine into this world? And eat a lot of green and yellow veggies. Eat a whole food plant-based diet. Those salads are medicine for your immune system, and those hearty vegetable soups and stews, etc. Stay away from the oils and the fried foods and the processed stuff. Keep that food stream pure and full of phytonutrients. Avoid the sugar and the alcohol. Get enough sleep. Laugh a lot. Love a lot. And we'll all get through this. The better times are ahead. Absolutely sure of that.
Absolutely. Those are amazing. And, I just interviewed a gentleman who does laugh therapy. Chris, I don't know if you've heard that one, but he's from Australia. It was a really fun interview. But yeah, he actually has a thing about laugh therapy. It was a really cool interview. He does some really awesome work. But anyway, that's fantastic. Excellent. And then Chris, you're going to follow Dr. K again.
I know. Once again, I have really nothing to add after that. That was pretty amazing. I love the lifestyle tips and the immune system tips, especially. That's right up my alley. And Lori, to answer your question, I have 2 books on laugh therapy. And I actually watch half an hour of comedy every day to laugh out loud. And so you can do online comedy shows now. And I've actually taken some courses myself. But laugh therapy, there's something to that. So anyway, we could talk more about that another time. But I don't have a lot to add, excuse me, to what Dr. K just said. But one thing I've noticed in myself, at least, is that I'm going through, there's phases of COVID. So it's not the same now as it was in 2020, now that it's 2022. So when it first hit, I had a lot of fear. I mean, who knows what was happening? We saw people dying. It was so freaking scary. And I hunkered down and was fearful. And from that, it got to loneliness and stress. And I think, like a lot of people, not everyone, probably not you guys online, but me, and many of my patients, I found myself overeating, and it was plant-based food. I didn't eat sugar, I didn't drink alcohol, I didn't eat toxins, but I overate plant-based food, and I didn't feel good about myself. And I didn't exercise as much. I went for walks, I got outside, but I didn't exercise as hard as I sometimes do. I wasn't socializing, and I'm a very social person, and I felt lonely, and I felt sad, and I felt depressed, and I felt anxious about COVID and my family and my own health and my future and all of this. So I felt all of that. And I feel like now it's 2022 and I'm coming out of it. So now I'm back on working out hard, and I'm back to eating just the right amount and doing my fasting and eating super clean, the things I'm teaching to my patients, that I'm right there with them, doing it as much as many of my patients are. And I find myself socializing more, even if it's outside. We're standing outside talking, from a little bit of a distance, with my vaccinated friends or whatever. But I am being more proactive about socializing, about getting out and getting involved in my community, like Dr. K says, contributing in some way. And instead of hunkering down and being in fear and feeling stressed, I'm getting out there. And I can see that in patients, like, what phase are they in? Are they in the fear phase? Are they stressed out, overeating phase, or are they getting back in it? And I see a lot of people getting back in it, and I feel like I can relate with that, because I too am getting back, focusing on, listening to more podcasts and really stepping up my health now and taking it to the next level. So, yeah.
That's excellent. Yeah.
Beautifully answered. Well done.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people are in this kind of trying to come out of it phase, and that's the hard part. Like, what does the new phase look like, right? So I'm glad that you're taking those steps and defining it. So that is the hard part. I've learned to be very just hang out here. Luckily I have my family, but they're coming, going, and we've done some things, but life has definitely changed, and I'm not sure what it looks like next. I don't know. I've traveled and done some things, but it's always like very cautious and, it's hard. But go ahead, Dr. Z. I know you had some really cool stuff you wanted to share.
Yeah, I'll follow suit with what Dr. Miller was saying. The first year I didn't freak out. It was more about the curious phase about, what this is and, how this has affected, the entire globe. And, I also have a podcast myself and I interviewed like 10 different docs and it was like a dedicated COVID wellness series. But going into 2021, I went through similar to what Dr. Miller was going through. I went through my own phases of like depression and anxiety, a lot of anger, a lot of resentment, and lashing out as well. I mean, I'm human. I definitely want to let everyone know that sometimes your providers and doctors they're human and they go through ups and downs just like and I'm no exception. And coming out of that and going into this, new year, I was telling the group before we start recording was, really practicing gratitude and appreciation and really taking out expectation and knowing that, okay, this is the third year, right? Similar to what Dr. K said, so what, right? So it's about, understanding that, that's what life is. Life is not black and white. It's really a lot of gray, and there's a lot of moments of uncertainty. And for me, I love using sometimes baseball analogies, even though I don't play baseball, but I don't know why. But it's all about curveballs, right? It's all about curveballs. Whether it's a pandemic. I have team members on my team that are from the Philippines. They just had a natural disaster. They just had a super typhoon, similar to what Dr. K said. It could have been worse. You always have to think about it in a situation where, someone out there in the world is having a worser time than you, right? So if you're able to, have food on the table, have a roof on your head, they had a super typhoon in the Philippines, some of them don't even have a house. Power lines are down, they don't even have, potable water, so it's, you have to count your blessings. And I would say the biggest thing is really about, learning, if anything, learning about how this has taught you about resilience and how to be more adaptable and learning how to pivot. And, if we survive and, hope to thrive in our lives, it's really about honing that life skill. Because no matter what kind of situation, it is, it's about being more resilient and learning how to pivot. I definitely learned a lot of lessons personally and professionally. And if you're able to continue to come out the other end, just continue to hone that, and just take out, what will happen at the end. It's really about, enjoying the process, learning the lessons that is being taught to you, and say that, what, I appreciate this. These are my blessings. I'm grateful for my family. I'm grateful for my friends. I'm grateful for, the lessons I've learned, journal, record yourself, do an audio message, do like, I'm sure, I've done time capsules, when I was a kid, so doing like a mini time capsule or, doing like a journal, and then like maybe 5 years down the line, you can say to yourself, wow, I did go through a hard period, but I came out the other end. And how did I do that? Because, I was able to practice resilience and, similar to what we said, have that tribe, have that social connection, bring people along with you, because guess what? They're in the same boat. You're not the only one, right? So
that's anything. The world's a tribe, right? COVID brought us all together in that sense, at least. So I can't disagree that. No, I love that you're saying focus on resiliency, because that really is key, right? So one of the things that's helped me with all the things in life, like all of us we go through, is like, okay, what are you here to teach me? Because if that's the case, this too shall end and something else will begin. And so, when I had a job that ended, I went to telemedicine for a few years, and that's where I learned those skills. And that's where then Anthony and I birthed the idea of plant-based telehealth. And so this is where we are, right? So because of some really stressful times in my life, forced me down a path that led to this. So that was a really cool thing, was just looking back, use your 2020 vision in the rearview mirror and say, wow, like you said, the journaling is really cool. I started doing my sketchbook journaling, which I really enjoyed. and, getting back into drawing and those type of things, find what it is, your joy, your passion, and make that part of your life. You got to find time to find joy every single day, even if it's a little bit. So I love that all. So thank you guys for that wonderful discussion. It was lovely, as always. Anytime I get to hang out with you guys, I'm always going to have a better day. So any final words of advice you like to share before we sign off? No?
Enjoy every day. They go by so fast, and the months go by, the years go by. 6 months ago, I was 35 years old, and then about 3 months ago, I was 50. And this morning, I saw this old guy in the mirror. Couldn't believe it. And we're here to love. We're here to learn and to make it a better world. So use every day for that.
I love that. I'm so going to start saying 6 months ago, I was 25.
It does feel like that though, right?
Gosh.
Yeah. And I would say connect with people. I always feel happier when I'm connecting. I feel happier now after connecting with everyone here. And so, if you find yourself feeling low, just connect with people and keep moving forward. This was great. What great inspiration today.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Dr. Sue?
I would say love who you are and love what you do. If you have those, in mind in the rearview mirror, it doesn't matter where you're going and it doesn't matter where the world is going. So
Well said. Well said.
Absolutely. And all you have is today. Tomorrow's not promised. So just enjoy what you have at this moment. So be present in your moment. So very good. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed that video. Before you go though, please hit the subscribe button and the alert button so you will be notified whenever we upload any new videos. On Monday, we upload the Healthy Human Revolution podcast. Now, if you'd rather listen to the podcast, you can find it on all the major platforms, such as iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, and even Spotify. Now, if you're looking for more resources on how to start a plant-based diet, sustain a plant-based diet, exercise, recipes, anything regarding wellness, we've got you covered. Check out healthyhumanrevolution.com. And again, thanks for watching.